Welcome to Fire Extinguisher Training. Today, we're going to talk about the general principles of fire extinguisher use. Now, please pay attention, because after this training, you'll need to have a discussion with your supervisor about the important points that we're going to be covering today. If I mention to you in the video that something is an important point, please make mental note, or even just write down some of these things so you can have that conversation with your supervisor when you finish. First of all, there are different rules and regulations that apply. There's OSHA standards, NFPA safety codes, local codes, and company policy. Talk to your supervisor about your company policy and see how it affects you. Before we get to putting out the fire, let's talk a little bit about how to prevent it. OSHA has a rule that says all employers must have a written fire prevention plan. Ask your supervisor where that is and see how you are affected. Something else that you might be affected by are hot work and getting a hot work permit. Anytime you're doing cutting, welding, brazing, soldering, there are certain rules that apply, and it's very simply spelled out in OSHA 1910-252. And basically it says, you must take whatever you're working on to a designated area or have a hot work permit. Hot work permits are very simple. You need additional training, and they need to be completed and include a fire watch after the work is completed. So now we can jump in and focus on fire protection, OSHA's Subpart L. So in Subpart L, it talks about all the requirements for fire protection. Fire gauge, systems, detection, alarm, all those sorts of things. Today, however, our focus will be on portable fire extinguishers. We can't talk about portable fire extinguishers without saying something about the fire triangle. Fire triangle is just simply heat, fuel, and oxygen together at sufficient amounts that can create a fire. Any one of those elements taken away and the fire goes out. When the fire is burning, it's a chemical reaction referred to as a fire tetrahedron. One item that you really need to remember and speak to your supervisor about are incipient stage fires. Incipient stage fire means the very beginning phase of a fire, characterized by small flames, limited heat, and minimal smoke, often confined to the immediate vicinity of the ignition source, as you can see by the red line going up. The incipient stage is represented before you get to that red line. That's the only area where you can use a portable fire extinguisher unless you have additional training. There are different types and classifications of fires. It's important to at least understand the general concept, because if you use the wrong extinguishing agent, you could put yourself in great harm. Class of fire is wood, paper, plastic, cardboard, that sort of thing. Class A fires can be easily put out with water, but if there's a flammable liquid spill and you try to use the water on that flammable liquid spill, all you're going to do is spread it, make things much worse. If there's an electrical fire and you try to use water on it, you could electrocute yourself. So you need to become familiar with some of this. Your employer in selecting fire extinguishers needed to consider the types of potential fires. When selecting the extinguishers, they should be correct, but it's important that you have a basic understanding of them. To do a quick look, you can look at an extinguisher in your workplace. It'll have a label on, like the one you see up on the screen. If you'll notice, there's a classification on this extinguisher. It says 4A80BC. Well, what in the world does that mean? It means that as an A rating for that wood paper that we talked about. It has an 80 rating for B fires, flammable liquid fires. So let me get into this a little bit more so you understand it. What does that 4A80BC really mean? Well, to start with, a 1A means a 20 by 20 bundle of sticks or twigs, and that fire is burning. That would be equivalent to a 1A fire. So if you had a 4A fire, it would equal 4 bundles of sticks. 4 flammable liquids. A 1B would be equivalent to a 2 foot by 2 foot half-inch thick flammable liquid. So that gives you a little bit better idea of what those ratings mean. I'd like to explain the water business again. Each A is equivalent to 1 1/4 gallons of water. So in this case, on this particular label, you'll see that we have a 3A rating. So if we have 3.7 gallons of water equivalency, hopefully that'll help you. So now let's get into how to use that extinguisher. Using an extinguisher can be scary to some people if you don't feel comfortable. If you don't really know for sure exactly what to do, don't use the extinguisher. If you feel comfortable enough to use an extinguisher and you feel confident that you are understanding what needs to be done, then by all means, go for it. Remember, you can only use that fire extinguisher for incipient stage fires only. If you're going to use an incipient stage firefighting technique, you must be trained, and that training must be done annually thereafter. Remember, incipient stage fires mean at the beginning, only at the beginning. So when using a fire extinguisher, remember the acronym PASS. PASS. Or pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. Pull the pin at the base of the handle. Aim the base. At 8 to 10 feet away from the fire, make sure you aim at the base of the fire, or you could experience a flashback. Squeeze and hold the handle. Don't let up because you think the fire is out. Keep extinguishing it because it may flash back on you. And finally, sweep the nozzle across the base of the fire. Don't shoot at the flames itself. Shoot at the base of the fire. Employees designated to do more than what we just described need to have additional training. If the employer needs to have that kind of protection, then they will provide employees who have been designated to use firefighting equipment as part of their emergency action plan with additional training. If there's fire hoses, they have to be trained on those hoses. If there are hose reels, they need to be trained with that. Different kinds of nozzles, etc. You, as part of this training, are not authorized to use that equipment. They too need to be trained annually. One thing that we all can do as we're walking through our workplace is to make sure extinguishers are kept clear and that they are at the correct height, so we have easy access. If you see something stacked in front of an extinguisher, move it. Commonly, we see boxes stacked in front, forklifts parked in front. That can't happen. We need to have immediate access to fire extinguishers. Organizations should have emergency action plans. These plans often have the location of fire extinguishers listed on them. Pay attention to it. And then, as you're walking to your workplace, pay particular attention to the extinguishers close to you so that when you need them, you don't have to stop and think about it. Extinguishers need to be placed at certain distances to minimize the travel. For fires, the maximum travel is 75 feet. For fires or flammable liquid fires, it could be anywhere from 30 to 50 feet. This should all be done by someone that is qualified to place these extinguishers. The gauges on all extinguishers must be fully charged and operable all the time. Take notice of this as you walk by the extinguishers. For fire extinguisher maintenance, the employer is responsible to provide monthly visual inspections, annual maintenance checks, and then hydrostatic checks based on the type of extinguisher. So that's it for now. Make sure you check with your supervisor, telling them that you've completed the fire extinguisher training and have that discussion so they can get you into the system as trained.